What's going on, guys? Welcome back. We are back. Well, technically, we're not back yet. We have one more week, but the show is back. We're going to cover some soft stuff today, some football, a little bit of UFC, but most importantly, I want to look back at 2023 and talk about some things that we want to see in mixed martial arts and combat sports in a whole in 2024. What's going on, guys? Hope you all have a great holiday. Happy New Year, health, wealth, whatever else you guys are wishing for. This coming year, I do want to let you know that we're changing a lot of things. We believe in evolution in the company and evolution in the site and evolution in the brand. So those that are members, you will see the site is going to start to turn over. We're going to have some new graphics, some new analytics, some new toys and gadgets for you guys to play with on the site. We're going to do some new approaches, even with the wagering end of things. What we're going to do is I'm going to obviously have my pockets of wagers for you guys. What we're also going to do is I will give you my official wagers, and I will give you wagers that I feel that are worth taking a look at that are in big plus money ranges. So you'll have optics from that. We're also going to be concentrating a lot more on the DFS section of things. We're going to be doing more content with that, a lot more media. We're going to be adding a lot of new nuggets and a lot of new toys into the site for the upcoming year. So I hope you guys do appreciate it. We're also running a promo this year that nobody in the industry has done or will do. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I had long, extensive conversations with my business partner, Bush, about it. All right, so basically what we're going to do is if you join for the year, if I do not hit the benchmark in the wagers and plus units, you guys will get 6 months free. So you join for the year, that gives you everything. That gives you all the MMA content, soup to nuts. That gives you all the NFL when the season comes around in soup to nuts. Everybody in the Discord that's given NBA, soccer, NASCAR, you're getting everything for the entire year. If the MMA package does not hit plus units at the end of the year, the following 6 months you get absolutely free. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is on this promo. Come sign up. Today did not start off the way I planned. I have no deodorant on now for the second day in a row. I had a very bad allergic reaction to deodorant, so that's how my day started. Raspberry red underneath my armpits. Very painful, burned a lot. And then I came into the office and I started to work, and I have very active feet in the office, and one of Christian's dog, cute, gorgeous dog, shit in the office, and he shit under my desk, and my active feet spread it everywhere in this office. We had to clean it. So that's how my day started off, but we're going to start this podcast off a lot better. So 2023, I was really sitting back and I was looking at it, and I was saying, what do we want to change? Like, what do we really want to change this year? Or what we'd like to see change? So we got a lot of moving parts. We have USADA that's no longer in the picture anymore as of January 1st, which I think is actually a good thing. We have some guys coming back. We have some guys making pushes. We got some new guys coming in. We see the sport like evolving a little bit. But where can we make it better, right? Like, where can we make this year a better year? And I think the biggest culprit where we need to start is we need to start with the judging criteria. I think everybody needs to be on the same page, and I think you have to start somewhere. You have to start, and I know they're having meetings, and I know they discuss this all the time behind closed doors, but I think you really have to start somewhere in order to put certain things in motion. It's almost like back in the day when you had Pride, when they would take little elements out, like you weren't allowed to, a bicycle kick in the UFC. They took that out. There's, certain things that you can't do, certain things that you can do with the rehydration process and stuff like that. It kind of should be worked in slowly with the judging, because if you throw a whole book at a bunch of people, it's going to be different. There's going to be mistakes. I think we're all of sound mind now when it comes to the understanding and the realization that the people that were screaming for robot judging, it's never going to happen. It's never going to work. It would never work. And it was kind of a blasphemous idea. It was a desperation idea, for people that are sick and tired of the judges and sick and tired of the human element of mistake and stuff like that. But I do think that we're all of sound mind now, that we all, whether you want to realize it or not, but I've been saying this from the very beginning, there will never, in any way, shape, or form, be robot judging. There's too much room for mistake where they can't see the human element of the fight. They only see the numbers. We've had CompuBox and boxing for years and years and years, and that tells a very, very small tale of the fight. Numbers only tell you a certain element of the fight, so you need to see the human emotion in there. You need to see who's backing up. You need to see who's more damaged, where a robot and numbers can't see these elements. They only see the numbers, so I think we're of sound mind that that's not an option. So where do you go from there? I think what we have to do really is we have to take the judges and make them accountable. And one thing that I honestly think that would work, this is with the referees too. I think the refs sometimes they get cold feet in there. They can have an event, say, let's just throw a number, UFC 1, okay, and you have a ref in there that has a really bad call, bad stoppage, late stoppage, or very early stoppage. All of a sudden, you see some of these refs in the performances of maybe UFC 2, UFC 3, where they'll say, okay, well, they had a lot of shit for that late stoppage. I got to let another fight go a little longer. Like, I got to make sure my fights go a little longer. So they come in with the mindset where I'm going to let this go a little bit longer, and sometimes it's a little bit too long. So it's almost like a domino effect where it's, you don't want to make the same mistake twice, but then you make them because you're trying to be too careful, you're trying to be too lenient. So all around the board, I think there should be an element of ownership and accountability. And this is something probably that would never happen, but this is an idea from me that I think that would work well. At the end of every fight, when we see the end of the card, not all of us, but myself and a lot of people included, what do? You go on YouTube and you watch the post-fight conference. Dana White comes on. He tells you the attendance. He tells you all the things about the event, who got the bonuses. Then the guys come out and they talk about their fights. So why don't we have a situation where if there is a controversial decision, if there is a controversial stoppage, why aren't these people held accountable where they have to actually come out and they have to sit on the podium and they have to answer some questions? Mark Goodard has a bad stoppage, an early stoppage, a late stoppage. Why isn't he held accountable where he can come onto the podium for 10 minutes and just answer some questions? What did you see? What made you stop that fight? What was the rhyme and reason behind that? Now, I'm not saying they have to do this every card. I'm not saying if you have a clean card with no issues at all, then no, there's no reason for them to step up. But why not? Why not say, listen, guys, the commission say, you guys are going to be held accountable now. Like, it's not going to happen every card, but if there is a situation where there was an early stoppage or there was a late stoppage, you might have to step up to the podium for 5-10 minutes and talk about why did you stop that fight. And the same thing goes with the judges. Now, listen, every card we watch in 2023, there's been probably a bad judge here and there on every card. Not egregious to the point where it affected the other fighter's loss or win, but you have seen a situation where fighter A clearly won the fight, and there was one judge that gave it to fighter B. Fighter A still won, but there was a judge that fighter B. Now, in a situation like that, you wouldn't bring him up to the podium. But if there was a situation where it actually cost him the fight, or there was an egregious decision or something along those lines, why isn't that judge held accountable where he has to come up to the podium and now you have to explain to the media, this is why I judged it that way? I guarantee you right from that belt alone, the buckle would be tightened up a little, at least a little bit, from the fear of facing public scrutiny. Okay, so that to me would be an option, because right out of the gate, when you're held accountable, when you know you're going to be held accountable and you can't hide behind the door, you're going to be a little bit more on your P's and Q's. You're going to be like, all right, well, I got to really, really, be on the guidelines here. Damage is the most important thing. Then, element B, element C, element D. There's going to be human error. Humans make errors. It's the law of nature. But to hold them accountable will absolutely at least narrow that gap, bridge that gap from them being so loose with giving bad decisions out. So that's, one thing that I would like to see changed. Like, that's the capitalist of everything, is I would like to see them tighten the belt on the judging and the reffing. Although the refereeing, all in all, they do got some good guys. I mean, you guys can shit on the refs all you want, but let's be honest. Herb Dean, these guys, they're seasoned guys. They're all in all, fight for fight, pound for pound, they're pretty good at what they do. They've had their issues in the past, absolutely, but I'm saying all in all, they do call pretty square fights. It's the judges that we have the issues with. It's the judges that we need to either see a rotation of influx in new judges, give some new blood some opportunity, or a situation like I said where these guys are actually held accountable. I don't think the accountability factor is going to factor in. I don't think the commission's going to even allow that. But I think that would be a great starting point. They will have to face the public scrutiny. Another thing that I would like to see, and we discussed this a little bit, I discussed this with some of my subs prior, these weight division jumps become old. When you see people like Conor McGregor doing it and Amanda Nunes doing it and Daniel Cormier do it, everybody tries to do it. And I understand, like, everybody's striving to be great, right? Everybody's striving to be great. But there's got to be a consequence involved, because all you're doing at that point is you're creating a logjam. Now, if you're successful in a double champ situation or a triple champ situation, and you're successful in your quest for doing so, you're one person. You can't defend that belt back and forth actively for a year. So you're kind of creating a logjam either in both divisions or one division. You know what I mean? So, and it's not good, because you got to, at that point, you have a train of people waiting, and the talent's only getting better. Even in the lighter weight classes, the 55ers and stuff like that, the talent is just stacked where these guys are waiting. All these guys on any given night can actually win the belt. In a situation where it's the heavyweight division and the light heavyweight division, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more meh. You don't have a lot to really choose from. So creating a logjam in a really dwindled division isn't a terrible thing, because it's how many of those heavyweights do you really want to see outside of the top couple? How many of those light heavyweights do you really want to see outside of the top couple? Even though, like, guys like Alexander Rakic is coming back, you got Hill coming back. Like, I get it, but they're not stacked like the lighter divisions, where these guys are trying to bump up weight and trying to get new belts and stuff like that. There has to be a situation in place, like I would put in place personally, is I have no problems with you bumping up from 55 to go to another belt. You want to go up to get another belt? Great. But you are going to vacate that belt that you have now if you're going to bump up. And if you fail, and you could come back down and you could fight for your belt again, but you're vacating your division to go to a different division. There should be no situation like that. I mean, boxing, they have so many different belts and so many different arenas. It's a little bit different. But in UFC, like, when you come in and you got lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, bantamweight, like, you got these divisions where they're kind of set where they are. There's no WBC, no WBA, no IBF. Like, it's the belt. It creates a situation where there is a logjam, because these guys cannot fight that much. You can't fight in June and then fight in July and then fight in August and defend your belt 2 times in each division. It's very hard to do, because number one, you're fighting top level competition. You're fighting the best of the best. You've got to be healthy, prepared, and ready, and game planned and blueprinted to fight these guys. So in order to be the double champ and defend your belt regularly without creating a logjam in both divisions is very, very nearly impossible to do at that level. So I really do believe in 2024, not that they're going to do it. These are things that I feel like that would work with the judging and stuff like that. And I'm not saying they're going to do it, but these are all things I have thought about. Like, why not? You can do it. You can do anything you want. You can go from lightweight to heavyweight if you want. I don't care what you do. But the fact of the matter is you have to vacate the belt. You have to vacate the belt. And if you decide to come back down, yes, you will be in the mix. You will be the first cream of the crop to get that title shot. If you go up and you lose, you can come back down and you can fight for your belt again. You're going to have to fight for your belt again. And I think you'll see a much more minimal amount of people trying to take that shot, because they're saying, well, I'm going up now. Now I'm going up in weight, and I'm going to fight for this belt. But if I lose, I got to come back down and fight for my belt again. It's going to make them think twice, like, all right, well, instead of I'm going up to fight, and it doesn't matter because I'm keeping my belt anyway. I'm still a champion. I'm going up. I'm doing something that not a lot of people want to do, and there's no risk. There's nothing but reward. The only risk I have is losing in that division. But if I come back down, the reward is I'm still the champion in my division. I don't think that's right. I think if you leave the division, if you exile the division for any amount of time, you have to vacate the belt. Unless it's by injury and you're going to come back in a couple months, that's one thing, or you're on medical suspension. But if you're leaving at your own accord to go fight up for another belt, you're kind of exiling the division, and you're taking the chance of winning that belt and then having to defend 2 belts and creating this big jam. So that's another thing I'd like to see. I'd like to see the UFC do a strategic chess move in moving some of the old blood out. I think that there are guys in there that the UFC is very loyal to that really just shouldn't be there anymore. And I think that it's sad, because when you really look at the big picture, why they're still there, they're not really there because the UFC cares about them. And there's certain guys, yes, they do. They do absolutely care about it. And there's certain guys that are still functioning at a high level. For instance, Jimmy Miller. He's going to be at UFC 300. He's functioning at a very high level. He's winning fights. And you're putting him in the cage with anybody, and you're taking a risk of that prospect losing, or that guy that's climbing the ladder losing. Jimmy Miller kind of accepted his place in the UFC right now. He's there. He's fighting. He's just going with the flow. The UFC throws a fight in front of him and he takes it. He's not the type of guy who's, I want a title shot. He's a solid foundational piece still at his age, going into UFC 300. But you got guys like Tony Ferguson, and you got some of these other guys that at one time had these monster names that the UFC is kind of holding on to. And you wonder, why are they holding on to them? Were they trying to give them some extra paychecks for them to retire? Well, part of it might be because of that, because they're loyal to them, because they help build the brand. But there's also a part of it that they're utilizing their name as a stepping stone. And that in itself, to me, is kind of a shitty thing to do. You know what I mean? Because someone like Tony Ferguson, who's taken so much damage in his career, you're not going to tell him, he's not going to stop on his own merit. Okay, Tony Ferguson's not the type of guy that's going to say, you know what, guys, here's my gloves, I'm putting it in the center of the cage, and I'm going to retire. He's the type of guy that you need to retire. You need to retire Tony Ferguson, because in that guy's convoluted mind, he still thinks he could be champion. He still really believes in his heart after this long losing streak, he could be champion. Now, I have never seen a fall from grace like Tony Ferguson since Renan Barão. Renan Barão was the only other guy that I've seen take such a fall from grace. But even Renan Barão knew, like, all right, like something is up. It started off with Renan Barão's, confidence levels. His confidence level dwindled after the TJ Dillashaw fight. This guy was on like a decade tear of wins. And then when he fought TJ Dillashaw and lost, it all went awry for him. He just kept losing and losing and losing. So that was in the beginning more of a confidence thing for him. And then as his years went on and as he got older, it became more of like an age thing for him. He wasn't keeping up with the younger guys. Tony Ferguson, on the flip side, there's just damage done. This guy's been in so many wars. The damage is done. His reaction times are slow. Everything about him just isn't the El Cucuy that we knew, the boogeyman that we knew. He's not even a shell of that guy anymore. Even though he'll fight guys, he'll have these decent performances where he looks good in the first round, he's not the same guy. But if you get a guy that comes into the division and he's a prospect and he's maybe, got 2 wins in the UFC, 3 wins in the UFC, and now you give him El Cucuy, or like Paddy Pimblett, you give Paddy Pimblett El Cucuy. Wow, now he's got Tony Ferguson's name on his resume, which to me, look, who wouldn't want Tony Ferguson's name on the resume? But it's almost like when Mike Tyson fought Larry Holmes, right? And I was so happy that Tyson said that during the interview when he won the fight. If you watch that fight, Tyson destroyed Larry Holmes when they fought. And they asked him in the interview, because Larry Holmes was washed up at the point. They asked him in the interview, like, how does it feel to have Larry Holmes on a record? And he goes, it feels great to have his name on the record, but that's not the Larry Holmes of old. Like, this is a different Larry Holmes. So that's kind of what it was. Like, if you put Tyson in the ring with Larry Holmes, when Larry Holmes was in his prime, Larry Holmes would probably jab him until the arena light shut off. He would just stick him with his jabs to keep him away from Larry Holmes was a very good, underrated heavyweight. But he fought Tyson when he was a lot older, and they just wanted to put that name on Tyson's record. But he actually confronted that in the interview, which I thought was really noble of him. The same thing with some of these guys. So I would like to see the UFC clear house a little bit with these guys, or put them in fights that are manageable, at least. I wouldn't mind seeing some of those fights. You wouldn't mind seeing some of those fights, right? Some of the legends fighting the legends. You get like the older guys fighting the older guys, like that. That I would be into. All right, let's do that. Let's put them on the first fight in the main card, or the last fight in the prelims, or somewhere in the main event, the main card where you'll have like a legend fighting a legend that are still kind of on the roster. That's totally fine. I'm totally fine with that. But when you're putting these guys in with these younger guys that have motors for days, that have evolved, that the game is changing right before our eyes, it's not fair. It's not fair to them, because you're tarnishing them. You're hurting them further. You don't know what these guys are going to be dealing with when the lights go off. Like, what is Tony Ferguson going to be like 10 years from now? Like, really, really sit down and think about his interviews that he gives and his outlook on life. And, he's a great guy. Like, the guy's a great guy. He's very weird. He's a great guy. But where is he going to be health-wise, mentality-wise, 10 years from now? You have no idea, because it's a degenerating effect. Just because when you look at some of these boxers like, Meldrick Taylor, and you look at some of these guys, don't even use Meldrick Taylor, just use any boxer from like back in the day, from the 80s and even the early 90s. Like, when these guys do interviews today, like, they didn't talk like they did back then. they are punch drunk in a sense. Some of them much more than others. Guys like Oscar De La Hoya and stuff like that, he's still, with it. But you got a lot of these guys, they have that drunken speech. Look at guys like Riddick Bowe, the tragedy on him. You listen to him talk. The guy can't even talk anymore. You don't know what it's going to be like for Tony Ferguson, or some of these guys, 10, 15 years down the road. So I would like them to either see them give them some easier fights, or I would like to see the UFC kind of just, give them something and just let them go. One of the greatest pivots I've seen was Forrest Griffin. Forrest Griffin was a guy who literally fought for the UFC. He saved the UFC, and now he's a big, intricate piece over at the PI. He continues to work for them, and he's a big part of their process over there, which is nice. But yeah, is Tony Ferguson going to be a guy that you can actually do that with? I don't know. Another thing I'd like to see change a little bit is I honestly like to see some belt changes this year. I think it's time to, the waters of 2024 to really settle the UFC now of who's who. I think 2023 was an experiment, and I've been saying this for a long time. 2023 was an experiment for camps. I think the game kind of started to shift and evolve in 2023. You started getting some new talent with some different techniques, and I think the camps were kind of doing a lot of what do I want to say? A lot of experimenting with blueprints. What works for this guy? What doesn't work for this guy? What works against this guy? What doesn't work against this guy? And I think they were taking fighters. I think a lot of fighters left their game plans in 2023 to try to evolve with the game. And as you watched and as the fight started to continue on in 2023, you were seeing guys losing that shouldn't have lost. You see guys winning that maybe if they won, you were like, why did he fight that fight? Like, they were completely straying away from what got them there. And I think one of the biggest lessons learned in these big intelligent camps like Kill Cliff and stuff like that was they are going to say, listen, like, the recipe isn't broken. The recipe's not broken. Like, the blueprint of what got you here still works. It didn't, the straying away from it in 2023 didn't work. And it messed up a lot of things. It messed up predictions. It messed up, people maybe wagering on them and stuff like that, where you kind of sat there and said, like, yeah, he's supposed to win this fight. This is what's supposed to happen. But is he going to try now and go from, a national, champion wrestler to all of a sudden a striker, and then all of a sudden for 15 minutes you'll see a guy stand on his feet testing his striking. So I think like they realize, like, it's almost like a quarterback, right? Like, you can have all the scrambling running quarterbacks you want, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the traditional pocket quarterback is always going to lead a team more times than not to get the championship. You've had scrambling quarterbacks and gadget quarterbacks win. Sure, I get it. But the fact of the matter is if more times than not, if you're going to draft a football team, you want that old school pocket quarterback, gunslinger QB at the helm. Look at, for instance, I know he's having he's probably going to have shit in the bed at some point, but look at Joey Flacco. Joey Flacco, this guy can't run out of mud. This guy's throwing for 400 yards a game. He's got the right tools around him. He's an old school gunslinger. He's a pocket quarterback, and he's getting it done. You know what I mean? So the same thing with the UFC. Like, don't go away from what you're good at. Don't try to get cute. And I think this year it's going to really start to kind of just even itself out. The champions that are supposed to be champions are going to be champions. You know what I mean? You had belt change with Jamal Hill and this guy, like guys that shouldn't, Jan Blachowicz and this champion and that. This guys that aren't champions, guys that really shouldn't be holding. You're going to see a cooling of the water, not so volatile. Like some of these champions I like to see that get in are going to remain champions for a little while. Alex Pieta, this is a guy who deserves to be champion. I mean, he deserves to be champion. There's certain guys in there that deserve to be champion, but there were some belt holders in the UFC this year that I didn't think they were champions. I didn't think they were good. Jamal Hill, I didn't think is like a good champion. Jan Blachowicz, I love the guy, but I didn't think he's like a great champion. Like there were guys in there and girls in there that maybe shouldn't have been champion, where I think in 2024 you're going to see that. So it's going to be a very interesting year. Those of you that are into the daily fantasy end of things, those of you that are into the wagering end of things, we have an amazing promo over at the site. We changed up a lot of things. We did a new website. We have a bunch of new graphics. We got a bunch of new gadgets and toys on the site for you. We're going to be doing a lot of different approaches. We're going to be really pigeonholing a little bit more on DFS. From the wagering end of things, we're also going to be giving you my solid predictions as far as all my predictions on every fight, my actual personal wagers, and then at the bottom what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a couple wagers that I think are worth looking at that are in very good high plus money territory that if you want to take a swing at, you absolutely could. So I'm going to be doing optics and research and stuff like that for you. And the promo that we're running this year is, I've been in this industry a long time, and I know no guy in the industry has ever offered this. I believe in putting your money where your mouth is. I don't believe in just yapping and talking all the time. I've been doing this for a long time with very good success, and I have confidence in it. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be offering you guys, if you guys buy the package for 1 year, now that gives you everything. That gives you the rest of football season this season, which is, the playoffs and the Super Bowl. That gives you the entire year for MMA. It gives you the entire year next year of NFL when it comes around again. It also gives you the sharpest Discord that you've ever seen. I mean, just a bunch of good guys. If you guys are looking for a very different community of people to kind of, like-minded people with all sports, everyone's in there doing soccer, basketball. We got a guy doing basketball, guy doing soccer. There's guys in there doing darts. Like everything you can imagine is in that Discord. They have separate rooms for soccer, NCAA. Just a bunch of sharp, just a sharp community. And listen, friendships have been built there. Phone numbers have been exchanged there. People have gone to fights. People have gone to games. Like we have one of I'm not even going to say one of we have probably the tightest Discord community that I've ever seen. And we tend to keep it that way. We take pride in our community. Nobody is a number in there. It doesn't matter if you are a professional or if you are just getting your feet wet in the water. Everybody is treated equally. There's no dumb question. I encourage you guys to definitely check it out. We're giving you 1 year. So if you buy the 1 year package and we don't go plus units by the end of the year, we're going to give you 6 months absolutely free. So you're going to get everything I just told you, all the DFS for MMA, all the wagering, all the NFL, all the sports, the Discord, the private podcast, the private live streams, everything that we offer, you're going to get for that whole year. And if we don't hit plus units in MMA by the end of the year, you're getting another half a year for free. It's a no-brainer. I mean, it's an absolute no-brainer. So anybody that's in the DFS space or anybody that's in the the wagering space, even if you have a membership somewhere else, you know what I mean? Even if, and I know a lot of you guys do, you have memberships here and memberships there. Even if just to buy into that, to know, look, I got this for a year. And if it doesn't, I got another half a year coming to me. I mean, you shouldn't be rooting against me, but the fact of the matter is that that's a piece for you to show you how confident we are that we're willing to eat that much money at the end of the year if we don't come out on top. So definitely check that out. Another thing off the cuff I want to talk about, then we're going to sign out of this thing. What is it with you guys? One thing in 2024 I'd like to be completely abolished, and this has nothing to do with sports, is this ASMR thing that you guys are doing. And I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. I don't understand how people will literally go on a YouTube channel and listen to somebody fucking whisper and scratch hairbrushes. And I just want everybody to know that everything in this country is kosher. And right about now, I'm going to... What is it? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, what? Like, I need to know I need people to comment and tell me what the fascination of ASMR is. I literally, it came into my thing last night. I was on YouTube and I was looking for something, and I saw this girl, and she signed on, and they all have these puffy things, right? They all have these like puffy microphones, and I don't know how they get their voices so crisp and clear, but they make these noises, and they take brand new hairbrushes that they buy in like Target, and they. How does that make you sound? Does that make me sound deeper? I just don't understand it. So somebody's got to explain this. So 2024, I think we should boycott this. I think it's unhealthy for our children. I think it's unhealthy for society. Can you imagine like Joe Rogan or these guys doing ASMR. It's so popular now, though, I wouldn't doubt that they would actually attempt that. That's how popular ASMR is. That you would have the Manning Brothers show, like end of the football, where they would have ASMR. They'd be like, stepping to the cage right now, you have Conor McGregor. It's just, guys, it's bizarre. You guys got to stop it with this. Our children are, our future. So let's relax with the ASMR and the eating and the dogs shitting on fucking camera and microphone so it sounds creamy and stuff. This is just nuts. But anyway, listen, I'm looking forward to 2024. I am also a little debate I want to have, and then we're going to sign off. I want to go into NFL real quick. And this is not because I am a 49er fan. And everybody knows me, that's been in the Discord, that's a member, knows that I'm a 49er fan. And I want to say this here. The people who think that Brock Purdy is a system quarterback, you guys are out of your minds. You guys are out of your minds. This is a kid who just broke the yardage record for the team in his first full year. Let's be honest. It's his first full year. Second year, but it's his first full year where he's actually going to be hopefully remain healthy. Okay, held by Jeff Garcia. All right, and people are like, I don't know, he hold it. He had Montana, he had Steve Young. Well, he also had Terrell Owens and Jerry Rice, on the same squad. So when you think about system quarterbacks and you even say that word, it doesn't even make sense. Because if he was such a system quarterback, then why didn't Trey Lance pan out? Why didn't Trey Lance pan out? Why did Trey Lance was so highly regarded, this guy, and he comes to the 49ers and he plays absolutely atrocious. Like literally atrocious. Couldn't even fire 5 passes without getting picked off. Just terrible. So why didn't he succeed in that system? Why is it that, Mahomes, you say, he's got a great wide receivers and he's got great weapons. Yeah, but all great quarterbacks have great weapons. There was only one quarterback in the history of the NFL that didn't have a great weapon that was still great, and that's Tom Brady. He made his weapons great. He made Edelman great. He had even made guys like Kembrell Tompkins. He made him a good receiver. Tom Brady was a different animal. He's here. Everybody else is here. So that conversation about the GOAT, where people say he's not the GOAT, that should be done and buried. That guy, without a doubt, 1,000% is the greatest quarterback to ever step on a football field. But when you're talking about system quarterbacks, then what does that make Mahomes? Why is Mahomes having such a horrible season? Well, he's got a great, tight end. He doesn't have Hill. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill. Okay, so what's up with him? So we should call him, a system quarterback at that point. Look at all the quarterbacks that are having great seasons when their weapons aren't there. So, I mean, you can't expect, this kid to come out and throw to a bunch of cab drivers and be a great quarterback. Every great quarterback has good weapons outside of Tom Brady. They got weapons. The kid's got weapons. Good for him. He's got weapons. You still got to make the throws. See some of them throws he makes or not. And, the people that are saying, well, all his yardage was after the catch is absolutely wrong. The kid has he leads the league. He leads the league in yardages per pass before the catch. So I don't know where these people are coming up with this, the yak yardage and stuff like that. What else did I want to say about him? You also got to take into account that if this was a kid that was the number 1 pick in the draft, the overall pick, even if he was a Trevor Lawrence or stuff like that, I could see the conversation coming out a little bit, saying, you know what, he's got Christian McCaffrey, he's got Brendan Ayuk, who didn't even make the Pro Bowl, he's got Deebo Samuel, he's got George Kittle, he's got weapons, the kid's got weapons, and then you got the number 1 pick in the draft, who's a QB, who's coming in, of course he's going to, this kid was the last pick of the draft, the kid was almost not even drafted, he wasn't even drafted. The kid had the most Pro Bowl votes this year. He's got the kid's leading in almost every statistical category as a QB. I mean, give the kid some fucking credit. Okay, well, maybe he's not a Tom Brady, but the kid came from Mr. Irrelevant to being an absolutely relevant quarterback who more than likely, I hope, is going to win a Super Bowl this year. You know what I mean? He talked himself out of the MVP with that performance. That really wasn't even his fault. I mean, did he play bad? Yeah, he played bad. But everybody's jumping on this kid because he played bad. Everybody has a bad game. Everybody's going to throw 2 or 3 picks. Everybody's going to have a game where they're off. He's human, and he's young, and he's still kind of raw. And once you have a raw player, a young player that kind of falls behind the 8 ball in a game like that, it's a tumble effect. I think it was the best thing that ever happened to him that he had that game. I do. I really think that he needed that game. I think there's something to be said about peaking in the playoffs, and there's something about blowing your wad too early. Personally, for me, I think Baltimore is playing out of their minds right now, where they're blowing their wad too early. Where I think a team like Cleveland or something can, make it to the dance. I'm picking the Bills to go. Something tells me that the Bills are going to start to click. Stefon Diggs is going to wake up. Josh Allen is going to start playing when the time is right. I think the time for them is now, and I think you're going to see them hit their stride, where Baltimore, they're hitting their stride right now. Like, they're hitting their stride a couple weeks ago, playing out of their minds. I don't know how long that's going to last. So there's a part of me that likes that the 49ers took a header in that game, because now they can only go up from here. Now they kind of got humbled. They kind of hit the realization, like, yeah, we can lose. Like, we absolutely not only can lose, but we can also get embarrassed. And I think it puts a chip on your shoulder again at that point. So I'm not thrilled that they lost that bad. I did want that game, especially against the Ravens, who they seem to have our number. But I'm happy that it happened now and not in the playoffs. So my prediction for the Super Bowl, and we'll talk about this more when Anthony comes back, but right now the soft prediction is going to be, I'm going to go 49ers in the NFC, and I'm going to take... I got to be honest with you, it's a split for me. I think it's going to be Buffalo, but something tells me Cleveland is going to make – nobody wants to play Cleveland. Nobody wants to play Cleveland. So it's either going to be Flacco's going to continue on this tear, or Flacco's going to turn into the Flacco from the New York Jets, and he's going to start throwing picks in one of the games, and it's just going to be the wrap. But as of right now, I'm gonna say Buffalo wakes up. They're going to wake up in a big way. I think once you get Stefon Diggs in that one game where he's going to hit 100, I think the momentum's going to start going. So I'm going to go Buffalo and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. Outside of that, we will be back next week to start off the UFC season. Everything is starting from zero. Everything is starting fresh. Get over to the website, the MadLabMMA.com. You don't have to do the yearly subscription if you don't want to. You can also do weekly, and you could do monthly. We encourage you to do the yearly special, just for the mere fact that you're getting another half a year free if we don't stand to our word. But there's options for you. You can go weekly, you can go monthly, you could do whatever you want. But go check it out, the MadLabMMA.com. We will see you over there, and we will see you next week.